evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call this special meeting of the Mayor and Council to order and ask everyone to please rise. For a moment of silent prayer and for reflection, as yesterday was Vietnam War Veterans Memorial Day, and we think about all who have served, their families, and the missing in action. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please note, the fire exits are behind you into Snyder Circle, and to my right or left into the main hallway. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Milford have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall and on the Borough website, and notices have been sent to the Record and the Ridgeway News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy that will safeguard the infrastructure, provide fair, honest, courteous, and professional services, establish a sense of trust and accomplishment between all residents, and through research and prudent planning, seek to minimize risk while improving our services. We are sensitive to the needs and satisfaction of our taxpayers, while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people, within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. At this time, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilman Sandhusen.
Here.
Councilman Zauner. Councilwoman Duffy.
Here.
Councilman Grotzky.
Here.
Council President Seymour.
Here.
Councilwoman Grant.
Here.
Mayor Pacino.
Here. Thank you to everyone joining us this evening, both in person and online, for this special meeting of the Mayor and Council. This meeting has been scheduled as a continuation of last week's regular session, which was unfortunately interrupted due to a medical emergency. Sorry about that. We are grateful to report that the resident is doing well. I would also like to extend our appreciation to Superintendent Galasso and the New Milford School District for accommodating us with this magnificent space. Although we are not in council chambers, I respectfully ask that all attendees continue to observe the established rules of order and decorum. As this is a continuation meeting, we will invite the Brunetti organization, if they choose, to provide a summary of the proposal presented last week. Following that, we will open the floor to members of the public who did not have an opportunity to speak at the prior meeting. For those who have already spoken, your comments have been duly recorded and are part of the official record. If you did speak last week's meeting, if you have something new to say, a new question or a new comment, you will be invited at the end to come up after everyone else has had the opportunity to speak at least once. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Brunetti organization. Would you like to do a summary?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, for the record, Andy Norn at Figgery, Drinkerville, and Reeve on behalf of the Brunetti organization. Just to recap, we are proposing a redevelopment of the existing Brookchester shopping center with 150 rental units, apartments, and approximately 27,000 square feet of retail and commercial space with 390 parking spaces. One item I did want to address from the last meeting, which I think was probably the most significant concern raised by members of the community. We certainly appreciate all of the feedback that we got, and certainly to the extent we can try and respond to the feedback, and hopefully as the project moves forward, if it does, to try and incorporate as much of that feedback as we can. So one of the most significant concerns that was raised was the number of school children that are going to be generated from the project and concerned with overcrowding of the schools. So we did look into that. You may recall I referenced Rutgers study estimating the number of school children that are generated by rental units in New Jersey. So we looked at that study in more detail. It was prepared by the Rutgers Center for Real Estate. Morris Davis, PhD, and David Frame, PhD, are the lead the leaders of the study. And what they did was they surveyed thousands of units in the state of New Jersey, South Jersey to North Jersey, to determine how many school-age kids are in rental units, and if there are any indicators of when there are more school-age children, when there are less, and if you could reliably estimate how many school-age children are going to be generated by a particular project. And what they found was that there are three main indicators of when there are going to be more or less school-age kids. Number one is the number of bedrooms, right? That's pretty obvious. One bedroom is going to generate less than 2-bedroom units. 2-bedroom units are going to generate a lot less than 3-bedroom units. Second was the density of the project. So lower density, low-rise garden apartments and townhome type rental projects generate more school-age children than higher density, mid-rise and high-rise apartment complexes. Number three, they found that the level of income also is a leading indicator of how many school-age children will be generated by rental units. So the lower income the average is of the renters, the more school-age students there will be, and the higher income, the less school-age students there will be. And that's generally because higher income households with school-age children, when the children get to school age, they tend to buy homes. So the higher income renters tend to be, as we indicated, are the target market for a project like this, tend to be young professionals before they have kids, or maybe they have kids before they get into school and then they buy a home when they get to school age, or empty nesters, divorcees, where there are no children. So those are the three leading indicators, and then they basically are able to look at lower density projects with lower income, higher density projects with lower income, higher density, and they come up with a set of numbers across a spectrum of types of projects of school-age children per 100 apartments. And they have the numbers in the study, and you can just run the calculation. And if we run the calculation of those numbers, what it shows is that in the market rate units in this project, which are primarily all going to be 1- and 2-bedroom units, right? The number of school-age children from the 1- and 2-bedroom market rate units are a total of 7 out of the 120 market rate units proposed. The affordable units, which obviously generate more and are more skewed to 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units and are lower income, obviously, would generate from the 30 units, would generate approximately 20 school-age children. So you're talking about 27 school-age children, and by the way, they also indicate, obviously, generally not all kids go to public school, right? So about 12% go to private school or homeschool. So that takes the number from about 27 to 24. So that is the number that we think is the conservative estimate of how many new school-age students would be generated from this project. So that's about, if you distribute that across a class of K through 12, that's about 2 kids per student. In addition, we looked into the number of students that are currently in New Milford public schools, and according to Department of Education data, it's a little over 2,000, and it's a pretty steady school-age population. If you look over the last 15 years, it's actually slightly declined from 2010 till today. So it used to be a little bit over 2,100, now it's down to a little over 2,000. But so you have a fairly steady population, and if you're talking about 24 new school-age students, you're talking about an increase of about 1%. So we think that the data shows that this project is going to actually have a very minimal impact on the public schools in New Milford. So I hope that the data that is presented, will hopefully assuage some of the concern that there's going to be, significant overcrowding in the schools as a result of this project. And we're happy to answer any questions, and again, to listen to what the public has to say too.
I know our planner isn't here tonight, and I know this is a study that's often referenced, but can you just, for everybody's education, tell us what the timing is on that study, how old the information is?
Yeah, that's good. It's a good question. It's from 2018, so it's a little bit older, but I have not heard of any more current information that would call these numbers into account.
So I just want to clarify something, Council. Are you basically indicating that the only way to reliably estimate the number of school children which impact our schools is the wealth of the families that move in?
No, that's just one, according to the study, that's just one indicator. Again, it's the number of bedrooms, right? So we are proposing the market rates, which are going to be, this is going to be a highly amenitized building with structured parking, so the rents are going to be higher, and that's going to result in those market rate units being leased to, on average, a higher income. And the number that they used was 100,000 annual income per family or per household. So anybody over 100,000. And obviously that's 10 years ago, so maybe that's a little outdated, so maybe it's a little bit more than that, and rents have increased, so you have to adjust that. So that's why the higher rentals that are generated by these types of units are going to have higher income people, and yes, that is one indicator of 3 that they saw contributed to the number of school children. The other is the bedrooms. These are only 1 and 2 bedrooms. And it's a denser project. Again, it's structured parking, highly amenitized, denser project, as opposed to a lower density project, townhomes, which are going to tend to be more spacious units and are going to tend to attract more larger families.
And what if your estimates are wrong?
I don't think they are wrong. I think, again, there's a wealth of data and sort of recent history that demonstrates the number of school kids that are generated by these types of projects. So, I think we're confident in the numbers and in the data.
We're going to open to the public, so may I get a motion to open to the public for public comment on this presentation?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? My first question is Tracy Grande here? She was actively speaking at the last meeting when we had a pause, so I was going to let her go first. So ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this presentation, we ask that you line up in the center aisle, come on up and give us your name, and we will give you 5 minutes. Please, let's start with people who did not have the opportunity to speak at the last meeting.
Hello, my name is Greg Kuko. I've lived in this town for 45 years, and there's 2 items that I'd like to bring up. And one is, I do a lot of home things for my friends and myself, and I've been going to supply houses for plumbing. When Hackensack created all those apartments, they needed to pump the water and the sewage at a higher density than was possible. The older homes that were in Hackensack blew gaskets in their basements because the pressure for the gas and the water exceeded what they were originally meant for in the 40s. So all of those people had problems in their basements. That's one. Second item was, when my kids were small and they were born in late 80s, the superintendent at that time was Mr. Volpe. And I spoke to Mr. Volpe. He was going to close some schools. And his idea was he had a projection of the student population. And I told him he should go to any hospital in the area and see what the nurseries were, and they were expanding exponentially. No one listened. 2 schools were closed, and then subsequently 2 schools had to have additions put on them because the data that was realized was unrealized. They looked at the moment and not the future. And 5 years from now, do we know if 2018 is a long time away? That's 8 years ago. That's a tremendous difference in time. So when I had Mr. Volpe look at that, he said, no, there's no increased population. 2 schools sold, 2 additions put onto the existing schools. So there is a taxpayer impact to all of these things. And a lot of the houses where you're going to put this project were built, the Brunetti items were built there in the 40s, and a lot of the homes were built in the 40s. So their infrastructure does not support the additional pressure of the water and the gas, and probably the sewerage also. I live on Ridge Street. The town is pumping that sewer line almost every time it rains. So where are you going to put all of this sewerage? And I know Hackensack is going to have an immense problem with all of those high-rises because there's no place to put this stuff. These towns were designed to be one-family homes. That's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Richard Sobolski. I live in New Milford for 48 years. One of the questions I came up with is the drawing that you have there and the loss of 17,000 square feet. Is there any way to redesign that to bring it back to 41,000? We really don't have enough businesses in town to start with. Is there any way of you guys increasing that amount?
So I think that we have, originally, one of the things that we have been discussing with the borough through the course of the settlement conferences before the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program, which the Borough Council mentioned last time, was the borough's desire to have additional retail and commercial space. And so originally we were just proposing the CVS, so we've added a significant amount of additional commercial space. I think that that is the most that we can do because of the parking limitations on site. There's only so much parking that can fit on site, and the more retail, then there's just not going to be enough space. One thing I will say is that although this site is the retail is being reduced slightly on this site, if you look at the additional retail being added on the ShopRite site, and then there's a third site that I think is going to be included in the affordable housing plan, a smaller site, but also will have a little bit of retail. If you add those 3 projects together, the amount of retail will be the same on the River Road corridor. So I think overall, you're not actually losing any retail square footage up and down the corridor.
Okay. The other question I had was, are you guys going to be getting any tax abatements from New Milford or from the state? If so, how many years are you going to get an abatement for?
That has not been decided at this point, but that is certainly something that we will be seeking.
Yeah, because the more tax abatement you get, the more that comes out of my pocket. So that's our pocket.
So the way pilots work in New Jersey, that actually is not the case, and there's actually a net fiscal benefit to the municipality from the pilot. That's why pilots are used throughout the state on projects like this, is because they're actually a net fiscal benefit. And projects like this actually utilize way less municipal resources and pump way more revenue into the town. So I think the numbers generally demonstrate that they don't hit single family and and other rental projects harder that are existing. It's actually a benefit to the taxpayers.
Yeah, the only benefit that I don't see happening is New Milford, I live in a type B flood area, which knock on wood has not flooded ever since I've been in 48 years of town. But when you're adding 150 apartments, flushing toilets, taking, and it's gonna run right down by my street, we have a couple of people living there. I don't know how that's gonna handle it all. Are you guys doing any studies on the sewer system for New Milford?
Yeah, so that is going to happen later in the process when we get towards site plan, but absolutely, the drainage from the site is going to be addressed, and that's state law. So we're not going to be able to increase, water running off the site. That the state law requires you to reduce the drainage. So this is, and by the way, this site is an existing, presumably close to 100% impervious already, right? And it's decades and decades old. So we're going to be modernizing this site, and the drainage is going to be improved from this project. And we'll be looking at sewer flows and any necessary upgrades that are required with respect to the sewer and other utilities. That will all come later down in the process, and totally understand the concern, legitimate concerns. They will be addressed.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Roth. I've been a resident of New Milford since 1955. So that's 70 years, except for a short period of time when I lived in Kansas, and I clicked my heels together 3 times and said, there's no place like home, and came back. So my question also involves pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes. And historically, pilot programs are 1.5 to 2% of earned income from your development, and that's what's given in lieu of taxes for up to 30 years. So historically, again, that goes to undeveloped or underdeveloped properties, and I don't think Brookchester, as it is now, would be deemed either of those two. So I don't know how you would even qualify for pilot, but if that is granted to you, what would you give back to the town? You'll be saving substantial amounts of money. Would you develop parkland or contribute to the possibility of having to expand our schools and contribute to the cost of developing or redeveloping the schools that we have?
So again, all of that is subject to future negotiation with the borough. I will say that the percentage of revenue is typically it's 10% of gross revenue is the base, and we'll be looking into all of those things with the borough as we move forward with this project. But I do, and we will have to justify the need for the pilot, and I'm sure the borough will be hiring a consultant. That's standard procedure to make sure that this project needs the pilot in order to be financially viable, in order to produce the affordable units that are required by state law. So that's part of the process.
Thank you.
Hi, quick question. I was just wondering if there's any plan to use renewable energy so there isn't further strain on the electrical grid.
Just give us your name, please.
Oh, Carrie Hiddle.
I don't think we.
Typically in these projects we do some renewable features. They haven't been determined yet. Things like low flow water fixtures, self-programmable thermostats, things of that nature. So we'll be working through some of those items as the project gets further developed.
Thank you.
My name's Carolyn Huell. I've been in the town over 53 years. I have a question about the building. You said that the existing building is not suitable to be structured, that it needs to be torn down, is that correct?
Yeah, I think long-term, it is not sustainable to continue.
Isn't the part of the building that CPS in just as old? What makes that capable of staying intact and not the rest of it?
Because there's a long-term lease with CBS that supports the maintenance of that portion of the building.
Leases get broken, no? So what are you gonna do, knock down the CBS then after a while and put more apartments?
There's no plan for that right now.
Okay. The town, do we have fire trucks that handle 4-story buildings?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The other thing, I mean, the building looks very nice, but the aesthetics for New Milford is not there. Go look at Emerson, go look at Park Ridge. Those towns look horrible now with buildings like that. It's just not the right thing for New Milford.
So with respect to the aesthetics, this is the sort of feedback that we appreciate. I mean, the aesthetics, I think, are something that, are things that we can address, and that's Jack's a pro at that. So if there's comment, feedback on the aesthetics as we move through the redevelopment planning process and the site planning process, we want to hear that, and we want to try and design and build a building that the community is going to love and is going to think fits with the community. So
right now, it's just big boxes. That's all it is boxes.
yeah, so we appreciate that, and any feedback. I mean, we'll listen to that now, but in the future, as we sort of go through iterations of the design, Jack will take that into account and hopefully come up with a design that, again, the community can be proud of and loves and works with the community.
I don't think 4 stories anybody will be proud of, but we'll see.
Hello, Marie Thompson. Quick question for you guys. You keep referencing this study from Rutgers in 2018. Do you have any post-COVID real estate data that you're basing any of these numbers on?
I'm not aware of any, but again, I'm also not aware that there's anything in this study that has been shown to have been, materially different now than from 2018.
Okay, cool. Let me correct you on that. Right now, if you even go through the current Brookchester apartments, you're going to be able to see that there are a lot more children than you are estimating. So that tells me that you guys aren't taking into account properly even the buildings that you're currently supposed to be on top of. And that's been mentioned as well with the maintenance issues for both the current Brookchester Shopping Center and the Brookchester apartments. So after COVID, we have a lot more people, especially in the younger generation, the millennials like myself, and even younger, who are staying home longer. We have people who are multi-generational families. And I think you need updated data. This is almost 10 years old at this point. So the estimations that you're coming in with don't make any sense anymore. And it feels very out of touch to me.
So the one thing I'll respond to is this data actually supports what you were saying, which is that the Brookchester apartments do generate more students because they're lower density, they're garden apartments, the rents are lower, and so because of that, they have a higher incidence of school-age kids per unit. This product that is going to be built, this type of apartment building, is a very, very different type of product than the old school garden apartments that generate more school kids. This type of apartment building generates much, much fewer school children.
And that would open up a whole different set of issues. In general, if you're targeting the young professionals, you're going to get more transient tenants who are not coming in to build this community and grow with it. So, like everybody else has been saying, and I hope you guys are really hearing, the overwhelming feedback that I am hearing from the town in general is that they're not looking to bring in tons of more apartments. They're looking to stay with more of the single families and to really grow the community together. Not to crowd people in and not to have people who are looking to come just for a few years and then bail. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ethan Kim, and this is Michael Ian. So, I just wanted to ask about if you have any plans about addressing like these jobs at these like shopping centers, and how you're going to address like the unemployment that's going to be caused by renovating these places into apartment buildings.
Again, I think the overall retail in this corridor is actually not going to be reduced, so we don't think that there's going to be a reduction in employment, and actually also there will be creation of employment from the rental units, and construction jobs, but also long-term, maintenance and property management jobs. And then the other thing I will add is that, again, these units tend to be higher income units, they're higher rents, and the people who live there tend to have disposable incomes, and they tend to spend that money in the community. So buildings like this tend to be a significant boon and generate significant economic activity for businesses in the community.
What about the unemployment during the building of the structure?
We haven't, figured that all out yet, but again, there's going to be new retail opening up while this retail maybe is going under construction. So, we'll have to see exactly how it shakes out, but there may be opportunity for retail to stay in this project or to move to some of the other buildings that are being constructed.
Right, but I also wanted to ask, what about like the immediate effects of unemployment? For example, like people who work at these shopping centers, they're probably not going to be working. They're probably not going to be working with like infrastructure or real estate, right? So how are you going to address like the immediate unemployment that's going to come from renovating these buildings? Is there like any way you're going to address this unemployment, or?
There's not something that we are doing in particular, but again, there's going to be additional retail that's created, so there may be opportunities for employment in the immediate, while our building is under construction, to go into these other projects potentially. The ShopRite project will have 12,500 square feet of new retail, and the 730 River Road project, I think, will have approximately 5,000 square feet of retail. I could be wrong about that.
What about
If you want to speak, you have to come to the podium.
what about the immediate community backlash? Because I know a lot of people like to be around there and just be with their friends, or have real if people take food and groceries from there and possible other purchases that could help them in their just daily life.
Well, I will say actually some of the feedback that we got early on from the mayor and a couple of members of the council was just that they wanted to see some outdoor amenity space so that people who are going to be coming to the retail would be able to go eat and hang out and everything. And so we have incorporated some outdoor amenity space on site. So hopefully we'll be able to, the project will be able to address that to some extent.
Yes, but during the construction, there's not going to be anything for anybody to do. We're just going to have to, what are we going to do when it's under construction?
Stay home.
There will be a period of construction, yeah.
Thank you. Sir.
Can you just give your name one more time? Yeah, we didn't catch your name.
Michael Ian.
Hi, Sharon Hilmer. Most of my questions have been answered tonight, so thank you. But I have one last question in regards to the plans.
Sharon, can you speak into it?
I'm too short. You want me to say it again?
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon Hilmer. And most of my questions have already been answered, so thank you. The last question I have is in regards to the plans being submitted to the DEP for approval based upon the proximity to the river. Will that be done? Does that need DEP approval?
I actually don't know if it needs DEP approval, but if it does need DEP approval, then we will be obtaining DEP approval.
Okay, because
I think it likely will, if it's in the flood hazard area, would require permits, but I don't know the answer. We're not at that point, but if we need permits, we're going to get the
Yeah,
permits.
because I can't even put up a fence without them approving it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking yes.
I suspect, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My name is Felix Paulino. Just wondering if you guys have done any traffic studies regarding the area. Because New Milford has two main roads, Boulevard and River Road, and knowing that there's going to be 150 units is really going to create more traffic on an already overcrowded street. Besides that, how is this going to affect the police department? There's more people, there's more traffic. How is this going to affect the fire department?
So we will do a traffic study. Again, that is down the road in the process. Again, this is very preliminary concept planning. When we get to more detailed design, there absolutely will be a traffic study. If there is a requirement to do any improvements to accommodate traffic, that will be addressed.
And based on those results, what determination are you guys, what determination can you guys make?
I can't say that right now. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that the traffic study will be done, and if improvements need to be made, then they'll be made. That's part of the site planning process. And what was the second question?
Well, just how it's going to affect the police department. There's more people to handle. The same thing with the fire department. There's more people to handle.
So again, as I indicated, generally, these projects, and if we do a fiscal impact analysis in connection with an application for a pilot, I think it's going to demonstrate that the resources used by this type of apartment complex, a mixed-use project, and the revenue that's generated from it, the revenue sort of dwarfs the amount of resources that are attributable to it, so that it's going to actually be a net fiscal benefit to the town.
All right. Just my last comment, just keep in mind that River Road is pretty narrow as it is. It's just a two-lane, one up and down, and not only people from New Milford commute through there. People from River Edge, people from other towns are just going through there, and I don't see how that can improve, in reference to this project. Because it's just no room for errors there. It's just very narrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mark Garavillas. I don't have structured questions, but I've been observing a lot of my fellow New Milford citizens here, and a lot of my concerns have been already addressed. The primary reason I attended this last week and today is because of the school system. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, which I'm very concerned about their future. As everyone have already expressed, the schools are already strained to the max. And, last meeting, I was very disappointed with the answers that, it sounded like you didn't really have an answer yet. And even today, I'm still disappointed because it sounded like it's not on your agenda. It's not on a high priority on your agenda. Because what the other, I forgot her name, but the 2018, that's very outdated. That's pre-pandemic. A lot has happened since then. So is there any other updated information that you have that you can kind of present to us and make us kind of feel hopeful that, the school, our kids' future will be okay?
I think this is regarded as still the gold standard in data for school-aged children in New Jersey and in apartment complexes like this.
Yeah. And also, going back to the age of the building, are you saying that since the building is 76-year-old, that's the primary reason you want to redevelop it? Or is there any other reason why you want to?
No, I think it's, the reality is that it's an antiquated building. It's beyond its useful life, and it can't continue in its current iteration forever. And so that's sort of what's precipitating this. Yeah.
Are you sure you don't want to just say it's because the Brunetti organization wants to generate, $3-4 million a year? Is it because of the bottom line? You don't want to just say straight out say that it's because of that, or you want to just use that as an excuse?
I don't think anybody would be surprised to say that the Brunetti organization is not in the business of losing money. They're in the business of making money, and so continuing to have this complex the way it is, they're going to not make money. And so, yeah, obviously that's what's. They want to redevelop the property. That their business. There's nothing.
Because the thing is, you say 76-year-old building, right? I guarantee you that anything you build, if you knock that down and you build something else, that building will going to outlast the new building that you're going to build up there. Because they don't make them like they used to, as the saying goes, right? I mean, that's how it is. And the thing is, and I'm not just kind of pulling this off my hat. The houses here in New Milford, the average age is 75 years old. That's from Collateral Analytics. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we ought to just go home tonight and just knock out our houses. But you know what? I have a suggestion though. Instead of redeveloping, I mean, I know affordable housing, redevelopment, that's good for the economy, but there's also a lot of cons. And as a lot of folks here have touched on it, the sewer system, utilities, our wonderful police department, our mayors, our town. Actually, let me just kind of step back a little bit, so I'm kind of like all over the place. I moved here from California in 2008, and New Milford was the first town I lived in. Actually, this was the first time I held my job. And I just came to love with the people. They were just so welcoming and wonderful. I mean, the first 2 months was like, this is so boring, like there's nothing to do here. But I just came to love it. I moved, and then in between that, I moved to different towns, Dumont, Wallington. And then I finally, New Milford is the place where I bought my house, I built a family, I have a 2 and a 5-year-old, like I said. My suggestion to the Brunetti organization is, I think, and this is probably, sounds gonna crazy, 30 seconds, it's gonna sound crazy, but I think if the Brunetti organization donates the town, that property to the town, I think that the New Milford neighborhood will love the Brunetti organizations, because the town can build a place where kids can hang out and great camaraderie for the community. And I mean, we want to preserve this the way it is, and it's just, a beautiful town that I don't want to it's going to change the dynamic.
Thank you. We like Warren.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yes. My name is Lorraine McMacken. I am a lifelong resident of New Milford. I understand that you are looking at this area as in need of redevelopment. The borough's master plan did not designate this area as in need of redevelopment. What the master plan actually says is that New Milford's commercial property is at the lowest percentage in Bergen County, and that we should maintain it and build it up, not tear it down. This building, this complex, I don't understand how you can say it is in need of redevelopment when all the stores are occupied. Upstairs, I understand the only thing up there are your offices. Why have you not refurbished them? Why have you not put the money into the property to get the most out of the property? The people of New Milford rely on all of those stores. They've been a staple all of our lives for those of us that have lived here. You can't duplicate that. This is a small town. It's a single-family town for the most part, except for our garden apartments that were built to welcome back the soldiers. I, for one, after I got married, lived in Brookchester. We had 3 children there before we bought a house in Milford because we decided we were going to raise our children in the town that we loved, that we were involved with, and still involved with. When you drive down the streets of New Milford, you see a well-planned community. You have single-family homes, you have garden apartments, you have River Road, which is where your stores are. You go down further, you have the older historic homes and the older section of town. It's a beautifully planned community. And it's a community where people choose to stay for generations. Brunetti has been a staple in New Milford. Give back to the town. Refurbish that building. Make something of the downstairs. You've got plenty of parking. In the rear, there's plenty of parking. Fix it. Maintain your own groundwater. Give something back. Please. Thank you.
So, Mayor, my name is Dan Monty. I'm actually a resident of Dumont currently, but looking to move here pending a divorce with the child. I have made a request of Ms. Donna Hanson, James, and my glasses, Elizabeth Sandor, and they have, all 3 of them have yielded their time for me. Because of an autism diagnosis, I wrote all of my questions out via text to speech. These questions come down to just under 8 minutes. So I would like to use those time and the allotted time to me. Alternatively, I can play it back at Alvin Chipmunk speed.
No, that's fine.
Okay, excellent. Just so you know, and I can provide that audio file for you as well. This is a list of the questions. You work for her. That's pre-established. I'm skipping some of them because they've been asked and answered. Just for the record, who makes up the Brookchester Shopping Center partnership, please?
It's private information. But I can tell you it's controlled by the Brunetti organization.
Public record. But, okay. If I were to write you a check to purchase that property right now, what would that check need to be?
I can't answer that question.
Can't or won't?
Can't.
Make up a number. Would you take $100 million for it?
I personally would, yes.
So you take $100 million for it. So that would be the value of the property that could be used for accounting purposes for the pilot, correct? Oops. I believe you were previously unable to provide estimated costs due to pending engineering studies, correct? For certain questions. There were answers about how much things would cost that were not answerable because the engineering hasn't been done.
Yeah, again, this is a preliminary concept plan, so we have not done any
Very good.
detailed.
If you haven't run those numbers, how could you possibly know the viability for tax relief for a pilot?
Again, that's later in the that will come later in the process.
But you've already acknowledged that you're going to be pursuing it. So you have some premise of how much this is going to cost.
We generally know these types of projects and that pilots are required for viability, but we have not run any of the numbers yet.
So but you've already acknowledged that you are going to be applying for one without having run the numbers.
That's what we intend, that's what we suspect, yes.
Okay. The developer has sought pilots for their projects in the past?
I'm not sure, I don't know what Brunetti has done in other projects.
Does Brunetti know?
Yeah, the projects that you're...
Use the microphone, please.
Pardon me, thank you. The projects that Brunetti currently has in the New Jersey portfolio are of age where pilots didn't exist, so this would be something new.
This is the first project you guys have developed under the pilot, with pilot available?
Yes.
What is the total financial net generated by the property as it currently is utilized, including profit, taxes, and income to utilize it?
I don't think that's not something that we're going to discuss publicly.
I know we have the numbers, and I wouldn't expect you to, but there is a number there. Understanding that you don't have those, it's fair to say that it is both positive and significant, at least to the individuals associated with that, not necessarily the developer, correct?
I'm not trying to follow that. But.
Well, if somebody loses their job, it's going to affect their family. Cool, I'm going to consider that an answer in the affirmative.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be argumentative or anything like that. Number one, we're not at liberty to divulge any financial information due to the private nature of the organization. Two, what someone deems significant or important might not be deemed significant or important to someone else. So I don't want to say that that the property makes so much money. The property does what the property does, and that's a lot of money to maybe to some people, not a lot of money to other people.
No,
so, and again, I don't want to diminish anything here. But again, financial information is not something that we're going to disclose.
No, and rather than being argumentative, you actually made my point, which is that what is significant to some people might not be significant to the developers and all associated with it, and thus very easy to overlook the implications of the current people as businesses close and people lose their jobs. As currently utilized, what is the annual fiduciary benefit to the town? As currently utilized, what is the current burden to both New Milford Town and the BOE for the property? For the proposed utilization of the property, what is the projected annual fiduciary benefit to the town? For the proposed utilization of the property, what is the projected burden on New Milford and the BOE for the development?
Again, there'd be a fiscal analysis done at some point in the future if we are proceeding with the pilot. That's all I can tell you.
And if that ratio, the financials went down or the burden went up, that would not be in New Milford's interest, correct?
Again, I'm not sure I'm following, but again, I believe that we will be able to justify the need for a pilot. The borough will have, we'll be able to vet those numbers. So that will all be determined, in the future.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to justify the pilot. What I'm saying is if that places a greater burden on the town and they realize less fiduciary income because of it, that lowers the livability of the town by putting burden on the residents, correct?
That's correct, except that I reject the premise because I think we're going to demonstrate that the project will be a net fiscal benefit to the borough.
Yes, you're claiming 10% and the numbers show 2, but also you've stated that you're making conservative estimates with are by their very nature optimistic. How many jobs exist in those businesses right now, full-time, part-time, and proprietorships?
We don't know a specific number.
Are those jobs in businesses not useful?
Nobody said that.
Well, you're saying the the building isn't useful. Further, you're saying CVS, which was constructed at the same time, is useful because they have a lease. I'm not sure how a lease would affect the age of the building. Does, to your awareness, does the lease affect the age of a building? No. You're laughing like it's a stupid question. That was your answer.
I never said that.
You did. You said that the age of the building was discredited for CVS because they had a long-term lease. That was your answer earlier.
Yes, that's different than what you just said. But.
Well, if they have a long-term lease, the building is fine. But if it doesn't have a long-term lease, the building is no longer serviceable. So you have removed the fundamental premise that the building is past its useful life in your answer that this can be accommodated with a long-term lease.
Okay, 8 minutes is up. We're gonna extend your time 2 minutes.
Well, like I said, I have 3 people who gave me time, so that gives me 20. Also, the time on here was 7 minutes and 3 seconds. Some of them I just did, but it is what it is. My understanding is that the driveway is going to be placed in a road subject to flooding, correct? The parking lot? Traffic study hasn't been done? Traffic study hasn't been done.
That's a civil engineering question that's going to be addressed when we go through this site planning process.
The garage is going to be accessible to a current fire apparatus?
No.
Trucks will not be able to get in, but there is access.
Well, okay.
Fire trucks would never want to go into that building. Yeah. The fire trucks will approach the building from the perimeter. They would never want to go into that building. Fire truck, that would be dangerous. Okay.
Fire trucks are very expensive. You wouldn't drive them into a burning building. No firefighter would do that.
Quite the contrary. I've actually seen it done, especially when you need to use the top-mounted aerial for suppression into a parking garage. So I witnessed it on when I called 911 to report it. Is the parking garage going to be suitable to handle an electric vehicle fire with the added thermal and duration time?
We'll work with the fire department to accommodate whatever their wishes are.
It has come to my attention that the residents of your apartment across the street are no longer allowed to park in the parking lot of the commercial property. Given that you already have insufficient parking space for your current residents and occupants, what are you going to do to ensure that there's ample parking for your occupants and residents, both current and future?
So, with respect
that was the last question.
Okay, with respect to the Brookchester Shopping Center, the redevelopment, as we indicated, is going to produce more parking than is required and that is going to be needed for the new project. And as we indicated last time, we're working with the borough on a plan to address the deficiency in parking at the existing Brookchester apartment complex.
Sir, you said I gave you the time of just under 8 minutes for the voice to speech, and some of the questions were being redacted, and I have 3 people, so that's a total of 20 minutes. So, what is the STU John Brunetti Human Trafficking Academy?
Sir, we gave you 10 minutes.
Yes, and I have accommodations for 20, thank you.
You don't.
I did.
You don't.
You don't. Why did they give it to me? All right.
You know, I'm sorry.
Okay, my name is Brent Friedman. I hate public speaking, so please bear with me. I'm confused.
Just repeat your first name, please.
Brent Friedman. I've grown up in this town. I went to kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school, the whole works. When my family moved us from Brooklyn, we lived in Brookchester for a time. So I know the ins and outs of New Milford, which I really, truly love. I'm confused about a couple of things which I need clarification on. For the first time tonight, I'm hearing about a 730 River Road. What is that? Is that another project that's going to be developed? I'm a little bit confused about that.
That is another potential development project, but will not be discussed during their presentation because they're not affiliated.
So it's another developer?
Correct.
Okay, so I think it's good that we're all becoming aware of this other potential disruption to our town. The other thing I'm confused about is last week at the meeting, I thought that it was said, if I understood correctly, that the zoning as it stands now for the Brookchester Shopping Center area is primarily commercial with minor residential. So if that's the case, I'm wondering, what are we doing here and why are we even discussing this? I know, I'm not being disrespectful. I just want to really understand what's going on here.
We don't think you're being disrespectful.
Okay, I don't mean to.
I was going to speak for myself and say I didn't think you were disrespectful.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Legitimate questions. Everyone introduce myself. I'm John Shadanian. I'm the borough attorney. For those who haven't met me before, don't know me. The questions that you specifically just asked with respect to can you repeat the question one more time?
Which one? The first one or the second one?
The zoning.
The
zoning you were correct, as the planner was here, Paul Greigel, who unfortunately couldn't be with us, our planner. Paul Greigel, I believe, answered that question at the last meeting and said that this is a commercially zoned area with minor residential pieces to it. However, I think you've heard both from the attorney for Brookchester, I think I said this at the last meeting as well, I think others have indicated, there's a massive zoning process and planning process that goes forward with this type of project. So this is at the very most preliminary stage, if you would, in terms of being presented to the public. No one has voted on anything, no one has approved anything, no one has said this is what is going to happen. This is a project that is now being presented by the developer who wants to do it, and that's why we asked them to come, so that they could present this to the public and get the public's feedback for what they would like to do with the project. That is a long way difference from the project being approved and shovels going in the ground, right? We're nowhere near that stage. That takes multiple, there's, depending on how the project goes forward, it could be anywhere from a handful to way more than that number of meetings. With the planning boards, I've had projects that have been 30 nights, 40 nights, depending on the planning board. Depending on how big the project is and what goes on. I'm not saying this is that project. I'm just telling you that there's a lot of steps to this where it has to get presented to the planning board, back to the council, back to the planning board. There are multiple steps that go involved in this.
Okay, but with all due respect, seriously, are you going to also involve all of us in that process?
So I don't mean to interrupt you, you're 100% involved in that process. In other words, these are public meetings. These are not privately held meetings. These are open public meetings, which, depending on how big the issues get, they can be held. I've had them in towns where we've held them in the high school gym, because we need to have that many people. We know that many people are going to come. It's not in Milford, this is in Teaneck, where I was the attorney for about 10 years.
Okay, so I'm understanding it correctly that potentially we can hold the Brunetti organization to the current zoning that we have?
I think it's going to depend on, there's an affordable housing obligation, right? That's why why we're here, right? I understand the town is subject to an affordable housing obligation.
Right, but that doesn't necessarily mean a 4-story high monstrosity.
No, but it means that the town has to allow reasonable development for it to satisfy its affordable housing obligation. And there's a number that we didn't come up with. The state entity came up with and said this is the number that you have to meet. So as part of that, we are dealing with that. It's potentially going to go into litigation, so I don't want to talk too much about it. Or it could go. I don't want to say it's going to. It could go into litigation, so I don't really want to go into that in great detail. But the holding someone to a particular zoning, that's the zoning that there is now.
Right.
If there's going to be a change in the zoning, that would have to be approved, and it would be approved at public meetings where the public will have a right to come speak.
Okay, because I truly believe the public of New Milford is depending on each and every one of you in our council to protect this community. The last thing that I'm going to say is, with all due respect to you, I find the Rutgers study laughable. I also find it an insult to our intelligence to be saying that higher income professional couples or divorcees or empty nesters, let's just stick with the first two categories, to say that professional couples are not going to have children or that divorced people don't have children is completely ridiculous. And I want to put it on the record. I, along with some other people here tonight, we work in the New Milford public schools. We see with our own eyes how crowded already our schools are, how much of an extra stress is put on our teachers. And I would really strongly suggest that before you think of really ruining our community, you get a little bit more serious and do better research. That's all I'm going to say. Thank
you. And just a reminder that our affordable housing obligation as of today is 368 units. That's what we owe.
How many are in the ShopRite project that's already issued?
I'm back. My name is Maura Kelly. Did speak last week. But I think
Okay. Has anyone who did not speak last week have an opportunity to speak before we go to anyone from last week?
I'll speak.
All right. Just gotta hang on one second.
Okay.
My name is Donna Sidria. I now live in New Milford, but I've owned property here for 37 years. But in the affordability category, two questions. Is that the senior citizens count in that? I mean, there's a lot of people that live in the town that maybe want to sell their houses, can't afford taxes. What about taking care of the seniors, setting aside some apartments for them?
That's something that we've looked into. That certainly there can be age-restricted housing and age-restricted affordable housing. That's not something that we can accommodate in this project because the way that federal law is set up is you would have to have basically a separate community for the age-restricted. Basically, federal law prohibits you from discriminating against families with children, right? So you can't have an age-restricted community unless it's a separate community that's specifically designed for people over the age of 55. And so the way the property is set up, we can't have sort of two separate projects on the property. So there's no way that we could accommodate senior affordables on this property.
I have a second question.
But yeah, seniors, absolutely, seniors can rent the housing. We're not, right, but it won't be specifically designed and marketed for a seniors only project.
Okay.
Sorry.
Please speak into the microphone. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second thing, I have a daughter with special needs. She's okay, she's situated, she's in a supervised apartment. But I know United Way, and I know a lot of these communities are, always looking for areas because they could have like apartments that they manage themselves, but would be for the adult special needs. And that certainly would help the school system because they're not going to be in the school. How does somebody get a hold of, who is the contact? Because I know people in United Way, I know ARC, I know New Concepts, they have people that are scouting. How do they go about getting information for your development?
So yeah, that's something that we would certainly consider, and we can provide you with our contact, our cards afterwards if you want to get in touch with us.
Yeah, I would give it to these people because that'll help the schools. If they don't drive, it could do a lot of good, and plus, it's a good thing. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Barbara Palladino. My question is on the Mount Laurel mandate. How many units did you say we're responsible for low income, for the low income housing? Was it 300?
Before we do that, can you guys open the door in the back so we can get some air in here? Thank you. I'm sorry, you want to know what the number of our affordable obligation?
Yes.
It was 368.
And how long is that for? Once we reach that number, are we done?
No, they'll be around 5.
Okay.
Our affordable, as of right now, our affordable obligation, it's perpetual, it never ends.
Does
It's
New
based on
Milford,
population.
does New Milford have the real estate to meet those numbers and future numbers?
According to us, no.
Then what are we going to do?
Well, we fought it in lawsuits, which we've lost
You
at the
lost.
federal level,
Right.
Superior Court level, state level. We are continuing to look at opportunities to protect our town from overdevelopment.
But we don't have the real estate to meet the mandate now or in the future.
There isn't open space, but keep in mind that people can knock down other structures and build.
Okay, thank you.
Jody Seifert. I have 2 comments. The first one is good news. I want to personally thank the police officers who saved a young man's life last week. That's Officer Koinski, Haneke, Carlino, Fashini, and Delaramo. Thank you very much. Second is things we've talked about, some talked about, but your present Rochester Apartments. Something needs to be done there before you think anything about continuing this project. We talked about the parking. I don't know if anyone's talked about the cockroaches, but the worst thing of all, there is the mold issue. The Board of Health has to get involved, and it's not just one apartment, it is several. So to have the audacity to come here and talk about this meeting to all these residents who are totally against it, is you didn't use your common sense. Please take care of those issues before you decide to build anything more. And that mold issue is a major, major health issue. And there's going to be people that are proud that I'm saying this tonight. The people that can't be at this meeting tonight to speak about it. Or for whatever reason they want. That is a major health issue, and you better take care of it soon. Thank you.
Thank you, officer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Danny Ferretti. Got a couple of things I want to say. I've been a 50-year resident in town. Thank you guys for everything you do. We grew up together, a lot of us. And being in town that long, community goes a long way. You know your neighbors. You know your next door people in the houses next to you. Last year, we had, I think Mr. Mayor, you posted it, we were the safest community, number 9 in the state of New Jersey. We didn't make that this year. It's not because of the cops, it's because of the transients. At the end of the day, we had a homicide on River Road in a rental complex, stabbing at the high school. We've had issues down here in the apartments. And I feel, being a member of the community, that the developments that are renting to residents that are coming into town are not doing their job to know who they're renting to. They're taking the rents, they're putting them in apartments, we don't know who's coming in the door. With that being said, that's a problem because I got kids in town, I got family in town, lived here their whole lives. It's not about how much money I have, they have, you have. At the end of the day, my family lives here. And that's a problem when something happens like that. Meth labs in town, this is not where we grew up. We grew up, we didn't have these problems. But with that being said, I'd like to ask about the development itself. I hear it's 150 units here that they're presenting. There's 2 other potential units. With those units, based on the Hackensack numbers of what those units are getting, they're averaging $3,000 a month plus. So 150 units times $3,000 a month, plus the retail on the commercial end of it, they're gonna gross probably somewhere around $10 million a year on the floor. We got a failing swim club, failing baseball fields, failing football field, because it's in a flood zone, we can't adjust it. ShopRite came in, they built a softball field for the kids. That helped, but there's still a lot of kids that are in the school system that don't have the amenities they deserve to live in this town. You know, the Milford, birthplace of, Bergen County, that's what the sign says, when I come to work every day. You know, I'm not one to say change isn't good. Change is gonna happen eventually. You know, you're only remembered as long as the last person speaks your name, right? And then we're all gone. But with this situation here, I got 3 generations in town going on 4. It's gonna go on to 5 and 6 and so forth. I take pride in the town, I take pride in my property, I take pride in my neighbors. But with this, there has to be some kind of a give and take where the community can get what they need out of this. And if it is approved, the developer, their team, has to step up and listen. They're grossing $10 million a year, 10 years, 100 mil, 20 years. You know, do the arithmetic. They gotta come to the table with something for our community. We can't come on the back end of this where it's gotta come out of my taxes for everybody else living a great life. And, the last thing I wanna say is, I know they mentioned something about high income. High income don't mean nothing. You know, you can have people making $3 million a year, they could be trash. You got people making $40,000 a year, could be gold. Those people can get a shirt off their back. It doesn't matter who's in those apartments. It's how they're raised. Humanity is different now. There's diversity in humanity. I graduated with the mayor. You know, we're a whole different generation than the kids there are today. Whole different generation. And in time, that's going to change again. So with that change, we need you guys to understand the people that you're allowing into our community, because we live here. And no disrespect to you at all, but I don't believe the Brunetti team leadership lives in town. I live in town. So with that being said, you've got to understand this where I live. You know, if you don't see that we live here, then you got to take this and put it in their town where they live. You know, and that's all I'm going to say tonight. I appreciate you guys letting me come up. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, once again, I'm Maura Kelly. I did speak last week, but as we go on, I'm coming up with different things. One thing that I really want to say is everybody needs to stay involved. You can't go to 2 meetings and just then complain when it's done. So please get your friends and neighbors to join us at these meetings. It doesn't affect me as much as it's going to affect you, the homeowners and stuff. But I think it's good to come to the meetings, not for the program. But anyway, the town is going to have to hire a consultant for this program. Is that what you said? Or towns generally do that?
Generally would do that.
So that means it's another expense for the town? Because you don't pay for that.
Well, typically developers will pay for the municipal consultants and the cost that the municipality incurs as part of the redevelopment process.
Okay. How long has this been in discussion? Because it sounds somewhat like it's a done deal. I'm sorry to say that, but it does.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm not.
We approached the town approximately a year ago, and so we see it very differently than you do, because we would have liked to have made a lot more progress than we have. So we've been, I think, as the mayor and John, the borough's attorney, has indicated, we've been in an adverse process with respect to the affordable housing, tried to mediate and settle that. We haven't as of yet, but we're hoping to, and we continue to try and work with the borough and to listen to the community and to accommodate the feedback that we're hearing, and hopefully can eventually move forward with the project. Okay.
I would hope that you would consider solar power for some of the energy for the new build. I know this is a crazy question, but do you have any idea when you would break ground? Are we talking 3 years, 6 years, or it depends on how it goes?
I think it depends on how it goes, but I think I said last time, and we're at least 1 year to 2 years away from thinking about breaking ground.
Okay, and where do you go from here? From the mayor and council? What's your next step? Are you going to the planning board? Are you going to the zoning board?
No, I think that depends on the borough. But the first thing that would need to happen is that we would need to have a settlement of our affordable housing dispute.
Oh, okay. All right, that's it. I'll try to be quiet next time.
Hi, Carrie Hiddle again. I've been writing down some notes, so forgive me if I read some things here. I'd like to know the current residential density allowed.
Karen, you spoke already tonight, right?
Yes. I'm not allowed to go again?
Yeah.
Oh, I was. I'm sorry.
Tony Bell. Been a resident since 2007. It's kind of interesting because you can even just go on YouTube and look and see developments in New Jersey, right? And you get similar players in the actual events that transpire. You've got developers trying to earn money, of course. You've got a mayor and council interested in their taxpayers and gradables and dealing with obligations from the state. Then you've got all the taxpayers as well. And it's kind of ironic that we're in a high school because makes for a very interesting word problem. How do you solve that? And hearing what people are talking about today, many of the people who come up before me, hearing that it's really kind of a done deal, sounds like it's a done deal. It's really concerning when the taxpayers' only real recourse is to come here and voice our concerns about it. That's really concerning. That's all I have to say about it.
I'm going to read off of this. Hi, I'm Emily Totaro. I spoke last week. I was obviously not happy with any of you, and I'm still not happy with any of you tonight. Because every comment that you make, you seem unsure of. Every response, you're bouncing back and forth on an answer. And then you're snide, oh, I hope not, to the question asked before about this being a done deal or moving on forward to this. Excuse me, we live here, not you. That's number one. Number two, you want to talk about affordability, affordable housing. The current Brookchester apartments do not qualify towards affordable housing. Why? Because they have not been updated to qualify. Had you taken a position to take advantage of this, we would not be forcing New Milford to go to the courts to move forward with a project like this. Okay? So how about you take that in? As I said last time, fix what is already broken before moving on to something else. My next comment. Hold on. I can't read like this. Some of these things may have already been written, but spoken about, but I might go over them again. What about all those apartment buildings that were, or apartment complex that was built over on Newbridge Road? Half of them are empty. The apartments there are half empty. I think there's one storefront, maybe two. I understand it's Teaneck, but it could literally impacts our town by where it was. So how do you expect if Teaneck on a major busy road cannot fill storefronts? You're going to fill storefronts with your accelerated prices for rent. Okay, and you talk about letting seniors rent in there or divorcees rent in there. I'm a divorcee. I can't afford to live in those. You think I'm going to be able to afford to live in those with my kids? You also have children, and I know this for a fact, in your 2-bedroom apartments who literally have 4 children in there at a time because that's all their parents can afford. And if that is what you're allowing in there, then that's on you. Because these poor people have to live in a place where there are cockroaches, mice, rats, more complaints than I've ever seen. I know somebody who over the winter, her pipes froze. When she called maintenance, they basically told her, well, we'll get there when we get there. Take care of what you are ruining first before you move in and ruin this town, because that is what you are doing.
Hi, this is my second time again. I was here last week. Hard act to follow, that was great. Christine Brewster, for the record. Just a couple points I wanted to make. Just so I don't feel left out, I also graduated high school with the mayor. So that's how long we've been in New Milford, and that kind of reflects the community that we have. I too have a child with severe autism. He right now is receiving incredible services in this city, in this borough, I should say, but as to the woman who spoke earlier representing the school system, it's for the grace of God that a teacher doesn't leave or they don't close down something. That's my kid, this is why I'm here, and that's one of my 4 children, so I've got a lot on my plate there. I also wanted to mention something, and this I don't mean this to be political, because I'm the last person that ever wants to get into a political debate, but New Milford is uniquely positioned, and I think those of us that live here know that. We are 8 miles from Yankee Stadium. We can get to Yankee Stadium faster than I can get probably to the end of Emerson. So I've sold a couple houses in New Milford as my family expanded, and again, no offense to people from New York, but that's exactly what we're going to get. We're going to be flooded by New Yorkers that are probably being outpriced by their current politician, and that's the political climate we're in. I can guarantee you will have mostly people from New York coming into New Milford, and again, no offense to them, but consider it. I think that needs to be considered when you reference the Rutgers report from 2018, that it's a different climate. And New Milford is a different kind of town because we are so close to the city. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
McMacken, Madison Avenue, New Milford. Start off by thanking all the men and women in the armed services for keeping us safe in this country. It includes my grandson, second year as a rifleman in the United States Marine Corps. Let's go over some of the things that have been said already tonight. We'll start off with traffic. I don't care what traffic survey you have or will come up with. You're going to add 200, 300 people driving vehicles out of that complex if it's approved. Can you explain to me why it took me about 40 minutes to go from my house on Madison Avenue on the border of Dumont to Teaneck, about 5 miles? I had to go there last week. 40 minutes to get there. Yet your project would have no impact on it. What I also want to talk about is the schools. I didn't go to New Milford Public Schools, my wife and 4 children did. But years ago, as that one gentleman said, had to sell the schools. One became a library, 2 became other districts. A few years later, we got to add on. Who bore the financial burden of that? People sitting behind me. I've lived in this town for 76 years. I've seen a lot of changes. None of them right now are that good. And I'll go back to the sewer system again. As I said last week, the EPA estimates 80 to 100 gallons of use per day per person. 80% of that, you can look it up, because the government doesn't lie to the people in this country. 80% of that becomes sewerage. So I could see that in the future, everybody would flush the toilet at once. Fletch Kramer will be there in no time replacing the mains. Who's going to bear the burden of that cost? With the added population, 1 to 2 people living in each apartment, that's what, 150 apartments? Is that what you said? So let's say it's 150 or 300. If you double it, man and wife, are they going to be practicing celibacy? Is that going to be part of their contract? So that no more fees come about? You can't make any guarantees about the things that you've said here. The last thing the last thing I wanted to talk about was expenses. With the increase in population, the FBI would turn around and say, we have to recommend that you add on 1, 2 more police officers. Perhaps we will need a new fire department, or a new firehouse, new fire truck. We lost our ambulance corps because of a lack of volunteers. Who's going to bear the cost of the added police officers if that's going to be required? Are we going to have a partially or fully paid fire department? Who's going to bear that cost? You're just killing us. You're killing the people in this town. As I said, I've been here for 76 years when half of the town was farms. Good luck with your project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Anyone else? For the record, there is someone else in the audience I graduated with, but I'm not going to out her.
Hi, Gail Oblansky. I've been in New Milford since 1983. I did speak last week. And please stop dissing New Yorkers who come here to live, because I came from New York City. Anyhow, what I was going to say, everybody made good points, but you were talking about more, once this, if it ever happens, that there will be retail. But what is going to happen with those, I think it's about 14 different stores now, because you said it would take 24 to 30 months to build. So does, Roman Pizza, are they just unemployed? I know those 2 young men were worried about the unemployment. So CVS stays, but the dollar store goes out of business? I mean, they have the long lease. Does that mean that Brunetti is just going to have short-term leases, not renew leases, and just everybody, they all have to move? You have Kessler, and that's rehab. I mean, places like Verizon, that's a franchise. They could go someplace else. Same with the, the Subway store, they could open up elsewhere. But what about these, mom and pop stores? Where are they going to go? And what are you going to do? Just, make them move out?
Hopefully the tenants during the time of construction will be able to relocate to other space, and hopefully some of them may be able to come back.
But I mean, that's an expense, move here, there, if they do move, you know, they're just gonna probably stay where they are. We're not gonna have Romans, we're not gonna have all those other good places that we've had all these years. Vincent's Jeweler's been there forever, and you know, I'm just saying that these people, maybe they can go someplace temporarily, chances are they don't come back. And then you know, Barrel and Brew, we missed all these, you know, these good places that have been there for years that are like neighborhood places. They're not, it's just gonna be totally different. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, Ronnie Lazarus. I was here last week also. And there was a question addressed to you then about the flooding in the back of the complex over there, back by Dorchester, and you didn't have any studies and you weren't prepared to answer. In this last week, did you do anything? Did you study anything?
No, again, this is a very early stage of this process, and so, as I indicated earlier, drainage and flooding issues will absolutely all be addressed when we do detailed civil engineering plans for the site. And by state law, again, this property is not going to convey more water off-site than it currently is now. The state law prevents that from happening. So our civil engineer is going to design the project and is going to accommodate stormwater in accordance with state law, and that is going to be an improvement upon what is currently on the site today.
Okay, but it's not only do you have, 150 apartments there? The river floods into that area. What are you going to put basins there? What are you going to do about that?
I don't know the answer to that question. We obviously can't control what's happening with the river, but to the extent state law requires us to accommodate drainage and infiltration on site, we will do that. And to the extent we need a DEP permit to get this project approved, we will obtain that permit, and the DEP will vet the drainage and the impacts on the flood hazard area.
Now, the last time we had an issue like this, they were using floodplain maps from 1980. Are you going to make sure they're updated?
We have updated maps.
Yeah, this is one.
We have updated flood maps. It's actually on our website.
We do? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Also, I've been a resident here for 70 years. My house is 70 years old. Should I knock it down in 5 years? Instead of maintaining it, which if I wasn't doing now, it wouldn't still be standing. So maintain what you have before you start building something that you're not going to maintain either.
Anyone else?
Can I go again?
No.
My name is Casey Hiddle. I'm in a unique position in this. I just wanted to admit that I am the third person who graduated.
May I get a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for attending tonight. I want to, let's give another round of applause to the police department. And also to the school district and Dan Preet up there for doing this on live stream for us tonight. And we wish everyone a happy Passover, happy Easter, happy holidays, and enjoy spring break. Thank you.